Hello everyone, very good morning. Today's class is about energy, the different kinds of energies possessed by a liquid, and based on it we have to understand the Bernoulli's theorem, which is a very important theorem about the fluid flow. So the very first kind of energy which a flowing liquid possesses, it is the kinetic energy. So as from the definition of kinetic energy, it is very simple to understand. The kinetic energy of a flowing liquid, it is nothing but the kinetic energy possessed by the liquid due to its flow. So this will be given by half of mv square, where m is the mass of the liquid flowing and v is the velocity, right, of the liquid. So the important thing here to know or to take is the kinetic energy happening per unit mass. So the kinetic energy of the liquid per unit mass, it is nothing but half of v square. On dividing it by m, it just becomes half v square. Another kind of energy a liquid can possess is the potential energy. If the liquid is not flowing along a horizontal line or path, in that case the liquid will have the potential energy of different kinds. Okay, so the potential energy from the liquid is nothing but the energy possessed by the liquid due to its position. So the simple meaning of the potential energy is mg into h, where h is the height at which the liquid is flowing and m is the mass of the liquid flowing. And again, important thing here to take is the potential energy per unit mass. So it just becomes g into h, right? The third kind of energy which a liquid can possess is the pressure energy. So what is pressure energy? Suppose we have this tank. To understand the pressure energy, it is the energy possessed by the liquid due to its pressure difference. So suppose that we have this tank, the lower of end is fitted with a piston having the area of cross section A. The area of cross section of the piston is A, and the liquid is filled up to some height, right? So we have to apply some force, for example, on the A, or we have to apply some pressure. This pressure we will apply to make the piston move inward. So we have to apply the pressure which is equal to the pressure exerted by the liquid on the piston. So when we apply the same pressure, the piston may be moved inward, right? So by doing that, this pressure will give rise to a force which is given by the pressure into area of the cross section of the piston, because this pressure is being applied on the piston having the area of cross section A. So with this force, the piston will move inward. Suppose that we are moving the piston by a small displacement dx, right? So we are making the piston move by applying this much of pressure by a distance or displacement of dx. So what amount of work this force, or we can say this pressure giving rise to force, does? So what is the amount of work done? It will be the force multiplied by the displacement. So it is just P into A into dx. So let us try to understand what is this. If you focus on these terms, A is the area of the cross section of the piston and dx is the distance by which this cross section is moving. So in terms of this A and dx, this is nothing but the volume of the liquid, or volume by which the piston has been moved. This is the volume which has been volume of the liquid which has been pushed by this much amount of the pressure. So it just becomes P into dV. So equal to this much amount of work, the liquid will possess the pressure energy. So the pressure energy possessed by dV volume of the liquid, this is given by P into dV. And important thing again here is to find out pressure energy per unit mass. So this will be equal to P into dV per unit mass. Mass can be written as rho into dV. What is the mass of the liquid for dV volume? So it will be rho into dV, where rho is the density of the liquid. So dV just cancels out in the numerator and the denominator, and we are left with pressure energy per unit mass to be taking the form of pressure per unit density. So this is the pressure energy per unit mass, or this is the total pressure energy possessed by the liquid. So a liquid can possess these three kinds of energies due to its various kind of situations, right? Okay, now we move towards the Bernoulli's theorem. So what Bernoulli's theorem says about the fluid flow? It is also called as the Bernoulli's principle of the fluid flow. The Bernoulli's theorem tells us about the variation in the kinetic energy, potential energy, and the pressure energy possessed by the liquid. How these energies change. So according to Bernoulli's theorem, the sum of kinetic energy, potential energy, and pressure energy per unit mass possessed by a flowing liquid means the sum of all the energies possessed by a liquid which is flowing is constant. That means the sum of all the energies, or simply we can say that the total energy of a flowing liquid, it is always constant. But there are some conditions which are imposed on the liquid and its flow. It will be possible only when the liquid is ideal. So what is an ideal liquid? Ideal liquid is the one which is non-compressible or incompressible, and non-viscous too. So such a kind of liquid is ideal liquid. So Bernoulli's theorem is valid for this kind of the liquids. And also the flow, there is condition on the flow of the liquid, that the flow of the liquid should be streamlined. So when all these conditions are satisfied, the sum of the kinetic energy, potential energy, and pressure energy per unit mass which is possessed by the flowing liquid, it always remain constant. So we will try to prove the Bernoulli's theorem and understand its application in different areas. Okay. So in order to derive, or we can say prove the Bernoulli's theorem, what we do, we take a tube just like this. So we are taking the tube which is not flowing along a horizontal line, or we can say the tube which is not lying along a horizontal line. So therefore the liquid is not flowing along the horizontal line. So suppose that we have this as the reference line. So the tube, the area cross section at point A of the tube is at height h1 above this reference line, and the area of cross section small a, we are let to be point B, and this it is lying at height h2. The other end is lying at height h2. The area cross section of this tube at end A, it is A1 for example, and the area cross section at end B, it is A2. So they have the different areas of cross section. The velocity with which the liquid is being pushed at end A, it is V1, and the velocity with which the liquid is coming out at end B, it is V2. Okay. Now the liquid is flowing in the tube, and we are taking that the liquid is non-viscous, it is incompressible, and it is flowing in a streamlined manner, right? So we have to make use of all these assumptions so that we can apply the Bernoulli theorem in order to prove it. So at end A, the pressure is P1 for example, and at end B the pressure is P2. Due to this pressure difference, the liquid will flow from a point of higher pressure to a point of lower pressure. So this pressure P1 at end A, it is giving rise to, you can assume all these, write all these terms as we have assumed here, and this pressure P1 is giving rise to force F1 at end A. This is the pressure P1 which is creating a force F1 at end A. So this will be given by P1 into area cross section at end A, which is A1. And what is the distance traveled by the liquid per second at end A? So the distance traveled by liquid per second, it is nothing but the velocity. So it will be V1, right? So this is the distance and this is the force. What will be the work done per second? What will be the work done per second by this force created by pressure P1? This will be equal to force F1 multiplied by the distance in 1 second, which is V1. So therefore this will be equal to P1 A1 V1. So this is the work done by the pressure P1 at end A every second. Similarly, work done at end B per second at end B, this will be equal to, again it will be equal to force created by pressure at that end. Pressure is P2, so therefore force becomes equal to P2A2 times the distance traveled per second, which is V2 here. So therefore what will be the net work done? Net work done will be the difference of the work done at the two ends. So every second, so net work done on the liquid by the pressure energy, this will be equal to P1 A1 V1 minus P2 A2 V2. Net work done will be the difference of the work done at end A and at end B. And what is A1 and V1? If we focus at this term, and A2 V2, according to equation of continuity, A1 V1, the volume of the liquid entering the tube every second, this will be equal to the volume of the liquid leaving the tube, A2 V2 every second, means equation of continuity. And this is nothing but the volume of the liquid. And because both the at both the ends volume of the liquid every second is same, so volume of the liquid can be written as simply by the definition of density. It is mass of the liquid per unit density. So in place of A1 V1 and A2 V2, we can write m upon rho. So therefore net work done, this is equal to P1 into m upon rho minus P2 into m upon rho. So this is the amount of work done by the pressure energy, and equal to this much amount of work, the liquid is possessing the pressure energy. Okay, so this is the work done by the pressure energy. Let us call this equation number 1. So this is the work done by the pressure energy. So this work will be done in causing the change in the potential energy of the liquid and kinetic energy of the liquid. Whatever work is done, it just does the change in the potential energy of the liquid. So therefore, with this much amount of the pressure energy, the potential energy of the liquid will be increased. So therefore increase in potential energy of the liquid, this will be equal to potential energy at end B, higher potential energy, minus potential energy at end A, as the situation is clear from the diagram. At end A, there is less potential energy possessed by the liquid because height h1 is less, and at end B the potential energy is raised to height h2. So therefore we are taking the difference, the change in the potential energy happening due to that pressure energy, work done by that pressure energy. So this is nothing but m into g into height at end B, which is h2, minus mg h1. And work is also done in increasing the kinetic energy of the liquid, which is equal to half m, or we can say kinetic energy at end B minus the kinetic energy at end A. So which will be equal to half m v2 square minus half m v1 square. It is because the end B is having the narrow area of cross section, and end A is having the wider area of cross section. So it is A2, it is A1. So velocity V1, velocity V2 at end A2. So when area of cross section is less, velocity will be higher. So at end B, the area of cross section is smaller. So therefore at this end, the velocity will be higher. It will be V2. So the work done by, now we can understand the work done by the pressure energy is converted into doing the work in increasing the potential energy and work done in increasing the kinetic energy. And according to law of conservation of energy, which is in can be also be said to be the work energy theorem. Whatever work is done, it just appear as the change in the other forms of the energy, just like here it is the case of potential energy and the kinetic energy. So therefore work done by pressure energy, this is equal to total increase in the energy. So work done by the pressure energy, this is nothing but P1 m upon rho minus P2 m upon rho. And total increase in the energy, it is the increase in potential energy plus increase in the kinetic energy. So we substitute this mg h2 minus mg h1. This is the increase in potential energy plus increase in kinetic energy, which is half m v2 square minus half m v1 square. So when we arrange and simplify this equation, we get P1 m upon rho plus gh1 plus half v1 square. This is equal to P2 m upon rho, sorry, not m, because m will just cancel out on both sides. So it is P2 upon rho plus gh2 plus half v2 square. So if we focus on this, as we have discussed in case of energies possessed by the, we can say a flowing liquid, right? So here it is the kinetic energy per unit mass, this is the potential energy per unit mass, and this is the pressure energy per unit mass. So here we are having the expression of that the sum of the pressure energy, it is also called as pressure head, sum the potential energy and the kinetic energy. So sum it will always be same during the flow of the liquid. So from here we can generalize the result and write it as, so therefore P upon rho plus GH plus half V square. This will always remain constant. And this is what Bernoulli's theorem and Bernoulli's principle says. The sum of the pressure energy, the kinetic energy and the potential energy, it always remain same, provided the flow liquid is incompressible and non-viscous and flowing in a streamlined manner. Here, each and every term can also be expressed in slightly a different form if we divide both sides with acceleration due to gravity g. So this can be written as P upon rho into g plus, here when we divide it by g, it just becomes h because g cancels out, plus it just also becomes v square upon 2g, and this will always remain constant on the right side. It will be constant divided by g, which is again constant, so on the right hand side it is just another constant. Here each and every term got the dimensions of the length. So therefore the first term, it is called as the pressure head. The second term is called as the gravitational head, and the third term, it is called as the velocity head. So this is how we understand the Bernoulli's theorem. And one special case can be discussed here. What if the tube is lying over a horizontal line? In that case, the height of the both ends will be same, and therefore h will be 0 here. So therefore, in case of Bernoulli's theorem, it will be P upon rho plus half upon V square. This will always remain constant. How does this come? Because the same equation we can write P1 upon rho plus GH plus GH1 plus half V1 square. This is equal to P1 upon rho plus GH2 plus half V2 square. This is the Bernoulli theorem. If the tube is lying over a horizontal line or a surface, then H1 and H2 will be same. So therefore this term will cancel out. So we see that only two terms are having the role here. So therefore we can in general write that P upon rho plus the pressure, sum of the pressure energy and the kinetic energy, it will always remain constant, and there will be no change in the kinetic energy, potential energy of the liquid. So what this equation tells us? So it is half V square. This is equal to constant. Here there are only two terms which can vary, the pressure and the velocity. Density of the liquid is same because the liquid is supposed to be incompressible. Okay, so that means all the sum of all these, it will remain constant, which is possible only when variation in any one of these is compensated by the variation, opposite variation in the other quantity. For example, if pressure is increased, then this term will become larger, so therefore the velocity should decrease. So velocity will decrease, only then the sum of the two will remain constant. Or in other way we can say that if liquid flows faster at any point, at that point the pressure will decrease. This also comes from the this equation of continuity. A1 V1, this equal to A2 V2. So when we have a tube just like this, at end A we have having the area cross section A1, and at end B we are having the area cross section A2. The velocity at end A, it is V1, and velocity at end B, it is V2. So at end A, area of cross section is more than the area cross section at end B, which is A2. So therefore, according to equation of continuity, it says that V1, it must be less than the V2. The velocity at narrower end of the tube or narrower point of the tube will be more. and at this when the velocity is more, then the pressure will be less at that point. The point where liquid flows faster, the pressure decreases, and this comes from the Bernoulli's theorem. That's all about this class. Thank you.